Welcome to the Division of Forestry 2020 Virtual Open House. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us and provide us with some of your input. This is meant to be an introduction to our state forest work plans, which can be found on our website. We truly appreciate your interest in Ohio State Forests and are looking forward to receiving your comments. The best way to handle questions this evening is going to be through the Q&A feature. So if you have questions, feel free to send those in and we'll address those. If you have lengthy or more involved comments, I would highly recommend that you email those to us at the address on the screen. That's going to be the easiest way to make sure that you get a complete response to those questions and comments that you have. So we're going to post this screen that you're looking at right now in the Q&A, so you won't have to hurry and write this down. You'll have access to this throughout the meeting. I'm going to talk just for a moment about what the Division of Forestry has been doing during the COVID-19 pandemic. Back in mid-March, our lives were all changed in pretty dramatic ways, and it affected our division like it did any other organization. Our offices are still not open to the public. They were closed in mid-March and they remain closed, and we're not substantially working in any of our offices. This particularly affects our administrative staff. So the primary format for all of our administrative functions has been remote work from home. Fortunately, we were given the ability to perform our field-based work as long as we worked within our COVID-19 safety guidelines. And this has helped us tremendously in terms of accomplishing our mission. We've found ways to get our administrative work accomplished, and it was difficult, but we were able to maneuver through that pretty seamlessly after a while. But the field operations was a very different situation. Those types of things have to be done in the field. We're a field-based organization, and it became clear pretty quickly that we really needed to be back in the field to continue the hard work that our folks do every day. So now we're back to meeting with landowners, community officials, and other customers, mostly one-on-one and outdoors. And of course, we use the proper COVID-19 guidelines for that and make sure that we're staying in everybody's personal comfort level if we're going to have provide those types of assistance. One of the main things that's still affecting us and will continue to affect us for a while is not being able to have group meetings. So it's particularly indoors. We're able to have very small group meetings, typically 10 people or less, as long as we're doing that outside. The way this affects us is we typically have a lot of landowner workshops and other types of educational forums, and those have been very difficult for us to maneuver. So we found a way to do a few of those virtually, and we're going to continue to work in that direction. But we're all, of course, hopeful that one day we'll be able to get back to our more normal delivery of services. I want to take a minute just to refresh everybody in terms of our division vision and mission, because these things sort of drive what we do, how we do it. So our vision here at the Division of Forestry are healthy, diverse forests valued for the life-sustaining benefits they provide now and forever. So this is the end result of our work. This is what we're hoping for when we put together the strategies and the goals and objectives that support our mission statement. Our mission statement is also there for you to see: promote and apply management for the sustainable use and protection of Ohio's private and public forest resources and forest lands. So that's been our mission for a very long time. It's still relevant today. It meets the directives that we've received for how to manage our state forest, which are our public lands, and also in terms of how we help landowners manage their private forest lands. So not going to dwell on that too much. People have heard what our vision and mission are in the past. I just wanted it to be fresh in everyone's mind as we move forward and looking at our work plans this evening. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about our mission and our vision, but I'm not going to do it in those long, flowy words that we often use to describe those things. I'm just going to try to hit a few bullet points for you. These are the things that we're thinking of every day here at the Division of Forestry when we endeavor to put together strategies and put together goals and objectives so that we can meet the important mission that we have. So the things that are important to us and the things that typically result from our work here at the Division of Forestry: productive and healthy working forest. So that's one of the unique things about our mission, is that we strive to function with working forests. So productivity and health are paramount in making sure that we can do that sustainably. This helps us to protect the diverse forest resources that we have in the state, and also helps us to best conserve and use those in a meaningful way for all Ohioans. One of the things that's very important to us is sustainable management of this renewable resource that we call forests. And third-party certification helps us ensure that we are doing things in a sustainable manner. So we have third-party audits annually, and these are very important to our operation. We pay very close attention to the results of those audits because they sort of tell us how we're doing in terms of maintaining sustainability with the forest management planning that we're putting together. And it's very important that we do that because we're the only division here at ODNR who has a true multiple use mandate. So lots of divisions manage lands lots of different ways here at the Department of Natural Resources, and they all touch on a variety of these important benefits that we get from forest lands. But we truly are the only division who does all of the things that are part of multiple use management of forests. So we focus on forest products, obviously, as part of our working forest mandate. We also look very closely at wildlife habitat and the impacts we're having on that. We do a lot of recreational activity on state forest land. We provide that on an open basis to the public. Most of those are provided free of charge. And they're usually unique backcountry oriented recreation that are difficult to find other places. So that's a big part of our mandate as well. Water quality is very important to us. Everything we do with that in mind, making sure that we're conserving the quality of the water that's flowing through the properties and downstream. And then of course, aesthetic beauty, just the sheer beauty of our state forest lands is something we pay attention to when we operate our processes. So I just wanted to show that as a kind of a way to start the meeting off and kick things off a little bit, and so that people would have fresh in their mind what our objectives are and what our mission is when we put together our annual work plans at each one of our state forests. And the local managers and the district managers do a great job paying attention to all of those things that are important to our division when they assemble their annual work plans. So those are my introductory comments. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Greg Guess. He's going to start us off with an update on the statewide forest action plan. Greg?
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody tonight. First thing I want to do is update those in the audience on our forest action plan. So just a review for you, the forest action plan is a comprehensive plan that covers all forests in the state, municipal, privately owned, as well as publicly owned. So it's a complete comprehensive plan. This is our second 10-year forest action plan that we drafted. It is composed of two parts, an assessment and a strategy document. And early in 2020, we had a lot of public meetings. Thankfully got those out of the way before the pandemic had hit. We were able to do public meetings. So any of you that attended those meetings, I wanted to tell you we really appreciated it. And we used a lot of the input that came from those meetings in fine-tuning our assessment document and writing our strategy document. So those two are almost completely done. We will submit those to the Forest Service, and once they're approved, they'll be on our website. So look for that in the near future, probably in the next month or two. Next item to update you on is forest certification, both FSC and SFI certification. So we do have a new contract this year with the new auditing firm. Scientific Certification Systems is now our auditing body. They're a company out of San Francisco, and they had previously been a subcontractor for the prior contractor, so they're not new to Ohio State Forest. Once we got them under contract, we learned that for this year, due to the COVID crisis, there was an option to extend our certificate a year. Certificates are usually for 5 years. We were allowed to extend and have a 6th year certificate. So we did take that option. And what that allowed us to do was to do a virtual surveillance audit this year that was document-based. So that's what we did a couple weeks ago, the week of October 16th, did a virtual audit. So first time we had done that before. In 2021, we'll have a full audit that will be on site. Will be a week long over full standard FSC and SFI standards. And it looks like there might be a new standard, revised standard developed by FSC. So we'll be watching that pretty closely. Our 5-year management plan for state forest was due to expire this year, and we chose to extend that a year, partially to make sure we had enough time to do a full forest action plan and incorporate that results of that forest action plan into the next state forest management plan. And also because of COVID and all the difficulties with that, it really made sense to kick it forward for 1 more year. So in 2021, in the open house, we will have a draft 5-year management plan at that time. So just to review, portions of that 5-year plan that'll be revised and included in that include our resource inventory, descriptions of our forest, the forest inventory and growth calculation. So that's an important part of the management plan. Our desired future condition, our current desired future condition was developed very heavily out of the forest action plan. So I anticipate the next one to have the same. And then our HCVF assessment and our RSA, our representative sample area analysis. Those are both large-scale analysis that we'll be redoing for next year. So look for those to be part of the open house in 2020. So that is the end of my presentation for statewide issues, and I'm going to turn it over to Stephen Rist, who is district manager, and Stephen's going to tell you about the work plan this year for the Athens district.
Stephen Rist with the Division of Forestry out of the Athens district. So just a little bit of an overview. We've got 10 forests that are in the Athens district with 80,000 acres. We have 1 APV area that's at Perry State Forest, 2 backpack trails, 1 at Zaleski and Tar Hollow. We got 3 horse camps. We got Hocking at Zaleski and also Tar Hollow. There's a public shooting range at Zaleski. There's 3 fire towers that currently they are closed. They're Tar Hollow, Zaleski, and Hocking. Due to COVID, we're just making sure that everyone's safe. Those are closed. Then there's 1 sawmill at Zaleski. And we have an active timber management program, plenty of hiking and bridle trails that are throughout the forests. We have the district administration, which we're located at Athens, Ohio. And then myself as the district manager, and the district timber program administrator is Jared Craig, who is out of Chillicothe, and the district fire administrator is Tom Schumann. So here are the state forests that are in the Athens district. If you look at, we have a broad range where there's only a few that have the people that have staff at them, and then they cover different forests as well. And so Courtney K. Wood is out of Zaleski, and the asterisk next to the name means that there is a staff there, and her staff covers Vinton Furnace, Gifford, and Shade River. And then the other manager that is in the Athens district is Dave Glass, and he is stationed out of Hocking, and he also has staff at Blue Rock and Tar Hollow, and he covers West Blue Rock and Perry as well. As both the chief and assistant chief had mentioned, Division of Forestry, we've been dual certified since December of 2010, FSC and FSFI. We've got 24 state forests and over 200,000 acres. Safety is important to us here at the Division of Forestry, both for the public and for employees. It's one of our major priorities here. In the past months, we have been doing COVID cleanings with the restrooms, making sure that they are as clean as possible for everyone. As the chief mentioned, the office buildings are closed to the public for the time being. And in the past couple years, we have been doing hazard tree removal along the roadsides to help ensure that there are not dead ash and other trees that are close by. The picture you can see on the right-hand side, I got it circled, where there was a tree that was completely hollowed out, and we realized it when it was taken down. So we have been doing that, and that will continue as well. In our five-year annual management plan, we have our desired future conditions. This is stuff that we work on. We're looking for the regeneration of oak forests. We protect rare and threatened species and communities and promote habitat for the diversity of the forest wildlife. Within the Division of Forestry, we have an active forest health program. In the Athens district, we have quite a bit or multiple things that are going on with forest health. One that it should be noted is the OhioDNR Eastern Hemlock Conservation Plan. With the hemlock woolly adelgid insect, it has a negative effect. It kills the hemlock, and we all know hemlock is very important to the beauty of a lot of different places, including Hocking State Forest. And so in 2020, there's been a total of 1,791 trees treated on 335 acres. And the treatment will continue on the high priority hemlock stands within the region. And then we also have the white pine decline that has been occurring in multiple of the state forests. And it seems like what is happening is the wetter weather during the growing season has had a negative impact on the aging and overstocked pine plantations that are already overstressed. So you'll see that in some of the white pine, the trees are looking like they are not doing as well, that they are declining. So in the Athens district, we have been able to, we're working on some additional facility additions, which has been very helpful to put our equipment under roof so that it can last even longer. At Hocking State Forest, there's currently a water treatment facility that is being redone. And then there's a 4-bay storage facility that is being worked on. The ground has not been broken yet, but it will be in the coming months, and we should hopefully have the buildings in our control and ready to be used about May, June of next year, as long as everything goes as planned. And then also at Zaleski, we are having building work done there. There's a 5-bay storage facility that's going to be going in place. You can see the track hoe that's right there that's actually started digging the soil right there, so we can, that's what I'll term the breaking ground. And we're going to have some additional equipment purchased, and then some coverings over the Zaleski sawmill, some of the outside equipment. And then at Tar Hollow, in the past year, we've been able to get a full-time staff member there, which haven't had that in over 15 years. And they are working on remodeling the headquarters. They got a new roof put on there, and the inside is being redone as well. And then at the Tar Hollow Horse Camp, there is 2 ROM techs that are going to be going in place. We've been working on that for about 1.5 years, and we're still moving forward on that. But there will be 2 ROM techs going into the Tar Hollow State Forest campground, horse camp in the coming year. And then within our annual work plan, you can look at all the details in the published plan or in the draft plan that is on our website. With our timber harvesting that we do, there is a proposed 32 areas on 6 state forests that are to be marked, and that is in the annual management plan that you can look at in more detail. When we're doing our timber harvesting, we follow proper silvicultural practices to ensure that the forest is as healthy as possible. We want to foster oak regeneration and also wildlife habitat, creating different phases, early successional, so it's a little bit thicker, so there's more cover there. We also do invasive species monitoring and treatment. It's important to keep the health of the forest by locating invasives and treating them. So we have been doing that and we'll continue working on that. And we want to keep the diversity of the forest. And then also with prescribed fire, we've got 8 sites on 2 different state forests that are proposed to do prescribed fire, which that is very dependent on weather. The past few years it's been very wet, so we haven't had as many prescribed fires, but with some luck, we will be able to have some in the coming months and years. And that the fire is to promote oak regeneration and keep the forest healthy. And then within the Athens district, we are wanting to get feedback from the public, which is you who is listening in on this. We want to start the proposal for the seasonal bridle closure trails for some or all of the trails. We have noticed that would be a seasonal trail or seasonal closure, which would be during the winter months, so that there's usually a limited number of trail riders, and they're ones that do go on there, you have a more negative effect on the trails. And so we want to limit the negative effects and erosion on the horse trails. It also gives us an ability to do some trail maintenance to the bridle trails without having anyone on there. If it does continue, one of the ideas would be to mimic the APV closures that we already do during the winter. And once again, this would either be on some or all the bridle trails. So anyone that has feedback, please go ahead and include that, and then we'll develop the proposal and it'll be reviewed in future annual plans. So this will be something in the future as well, and we wanted to get the discussion going. So in order, you can go to our, most of you probably already seen it, but go to our website and you can see on the state forest management, the annual state work plans that are in draft form. If you click on that, then you can go down to a little further, and if you click on District 4, that is the Athens work plan that you can go ahead and read in more detail. That shows the timber harvest and prescribed fires that are planned. And that is the end of it. And if you have any future comments, discussion points, you can go ahead and email that address that is right there. The DNR state forest work plan comments at dnr.ohio.gov.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. We've got a few questions in the Q&A, so I thought first one I'd give to Dave Glass, who's the manager at Tar Hollow State Forest. Dave, the question from the public is that LWCF funding is used for some improvements at the horse camp at Tar Hollow, and will there be signage there that acknowledges the contribution from the Land and Water Conservation Fund?
Yes, Greg.
Okay. So second question, I'll just answer myself. So the question is, what percentage of the timber harvest sale income is returned to the local community, and how much is retained by the Division of Forestry? So the answer to that is spelled out in state law. So of the net value of the harvest, 35% is retained by the Division of Forestry, and the other 65% is split among the county, the township, and the school district. And of the amount that goes to those local governments, half of it is the school district's funds, and the other half is split among the township and the county. You know, we tried to develop this format to be as much like our open house as it would be, in that, you know, our open house, we typically have people coming in and asking questions, you know, kind of for a few hours each night. So feel free to ask questions and we'll answer them as best we can. So we do have a question here that's related to Perry State Forest and the issue of the coal mining permit. Yeah, so the question is what we're going to do with some of that area. And so that is not a decision that's completely been made yet, but we will certainly look at the area that was harvested there in preparation of coal mining and see what makes the most sense in terms of forest management going forward there. So I did get a question in. I'll give this to Stephen. Writer notes that the main recreational users on state forest seem to be hunters, bridle trail users, and possibly mountain bikers. And are any other recreational users recognized?
Yeah, within the Division of Forestry, we try to work with everybody that wants to enjoy the forest. So, I mean, there are hikers that go out there that are, the nice thing about Division of Forestry is you can go anywhere. You can walk around, you can mushroom hunt. There's also APV areas as well. And so we work with the different groups, the Buckeye Trail Association with the hiking trails. So we try and make it available to everyone that wants to enjoy the forest.
Stephen, while I got you on here, I'll go ahead and ask a follow-up question about the bridle trail closure. So the question is, what exact dates would be considered for a potential seasonal closure?
Yeah, so that's still ongoing. That's why we want the feedback from the people as well. Right now, looking at the ATV closure, and that's just a proposal. It would be mainly during the winter season, so during the freezing and thawing.
So next question I'll just answer myself, but the question is, how often in the past have you met prescribed fire goals set in any given year? So it's a little complicated in that we always propose more than we think will get done, and really more than we intend to get done. And part of that is that prescribed fire is so heavily dependent on weather, and we have units spread across the state, so at least spread across state forests, so that we're positioned, if we do get a good weather window to burn in an area, we can hop over there and burn. Typically, we propose in work plans, statewide, well over 1,000 acres, probably several thousand, and in a good year we'll do a third of those. So we would like to burn more than we have typically burned in the past, but we understand when we propose all those that we're not going to get the weather. And even if we did have the weather, we don't have enough people to pull all this off. So it's never really our expectation. Okay, I'm going to turn this question to Jared Craig. Jared, the question is, what criteria do we use for determining where and when timber harvest occur?
So we have a kind of a long-term process for determining areas where timber harvests happen. Each forest or area of the forest is split up to where it's inventoried on roughly a 20-year inventory cycle. So every year a forester will go out and inventory those different areas around the forest. And from that, they'll take plots out there and go back to the office and come up with the data from those inventories that they did. Then based off that, we have a handful of programs that will run the numbers through and use that to determine, the statistics of the different areas, and use that along with our own silvicultural knowledge and forestry training, and using the latest science to come up with timber harvest areas. I guess kind of the follow-up to that, as far as when the timber harvests occur, once we go through that initial process that I just talked about, that will generate the, I guess, lines of the work plan that we're discussing here today. So everything that's in there to be marked has come from one of those inventories that the foresters have done on the ground. And then throughout the year, we'll go and work on marking those areas that have been identified for a harvest. And from there, it'll allow us to advertise those timber sales to interested bidders. Once the sales have been advertised and sold, we generally give them 1 to 2 years to harvest that timber, depending on the size of the sale and the difficulty of access, and other factors that play into that.
Okay, thanks, Jared. There is a little bit of a related follow-up. As long as you're on, I'll send you the question here. So, are we harvesting ash and white oak faster to prevent the spread of disease and bugs?
So No, I wouldn't say that we're necessarily harvesting, definitely not white oak faster. There's really no widespread disease or insect that's attacking white oak. Nothing at a rate like an invasive insect like emerald ash borer. So to talk more about ash, a lot of the ash borer damage has come and gone. The ash borer's been identified in every county at this point. It's certainly nothing new, and you can take a trip through a lot of the forests and see patches of a lot of dead ash tree that honestly at this point isn't merchantable. I guess the other part of that, if we are planning to do a timber harvest in a certain area, if we do see that there is declining ash, we might target that more heavily. But as far as using harvesting as a method to slow down the spread of emerald ash borer, I would say the answer is no. Whether we harvest or not wouldn't really affect in Ohio the spread of that anymore. So it looks like there's one other question here. Someone asked, hiking trails and bridle trails sometimes cross through treatment areas. How do you manage impacts to those users, and how do you announce those impacts? I'm assuming that's in the context of timber harvesting. So whenever we do have any conflicts like that of timber harvest in the same areas as hiking and bridle trails, in general, so as far as the actual timber harvest operations, as much as possible, we'll try to limit equipment being on those trails, just given where some of our trails are located, especially bridle trails that are a result of past logging operations in a lot of cases. That's how they were originally formed to start with. Will a lot of times be required just logistically to reuse those same trails for equipment. But we will rehab those areas once we're done, try to make sure that there's no hindrance to horses or hikers on those trails once the logging operations are done. So, seeding, strawing trails with mulch, that sort of thing. As far as announcing that, all of the trail closures we post on our website. As soon as we know that there's going to be a trail closure, we'll post that on there so that hopefully anyone who's planning to use the trails can check that beforehand and know that they might run into some trail closures or reroutes as possible. So that, to add to that too, whenever we can, our option always, if we need to close a section of trail, is to reroute people around that as well, rather than simply just closing an area without any other options.
Stephen, I'm going to send you next. We've got a question about the seasonal trail closure again. So the meat of the question is that there's a private horse livery that has a significant amount of business in mid-March. That's something we would consider on any trail closure policy.
Correct. Yeah, that was, I actually looked up the dates while we were in between, and it's December 1st to March 31st, and that's just the APV, that's the base. So what we wanted is the feedback from the public, so that's exactly what is beneficial information. Having that in there as well is that you're using it in mid-March. So we would definitely consider it and review it and talk about it more within the division before making a additional decision and getting it posted in next year's annual work plan with more detail on it.
Stephen, we've got another question I'll throw to you. It's how we consider climbing, rock climbing, as a recreational use of the forest, and if there's any potential to expand that use. And you could feel free to kick that to Hocking State Forest Manager if you like, but feel free to go ahead and answer it.
Yeah, I can start there, and then we'll probably have Dave Glass expand on it as well. Yeah, that was another recreational user. I couldn't name them all. I'm sure there's even additional ones from what I had said as well. So the people that use the rappelling area definitely are our user as well. And I mean, there is a limited place of where it's at, but Dave Glass, it's probably gonna be Hocking State Forest. If you can go ahead and follow up on that.
Yes, Stephen, we have 92 acres that are designated for repelling area use. Whether they'll expand that, there's been no discussion about that at this point. We encourage repellers. It's a safe place and a great user group that participates each year in those areas. This year's been a little difficult with the COVID. We've tried to reduce the size, which maybe has made more challenges this year, but overall a good group. And one thing I will say, it's probably one of the cleaner groups that we have. Very little trash that you ever find in that area, which is nice.
So we did get one question, and it's a big question, so maybe Dan Balzer, I will kick it to you, and if you don't mind. So the person that wrote in notes there are a lot of big issues for Ohio's forest. So how does the division's forest management address all of those issues?
So I'll give a start to that, Greg, and then I might kick it back to you and Jared. I think one of the big issues in Ohio, it has to do with oak regeneration and oak recruitment and making sure that oak hickory is a part of our future forest here in Ohio. It's a very important part of our current forest, and we want to make sure that it remains an important part moving forward. So not everything that we do is related to oak hickory management, but an awful lot of what we do in Southern Ohio ends up in the oak hickory stands, ends up being sort of geared this way. So in trying to resolve those issues of regeneration, there's important management techniques that we can use in order to ensure that oak and hickory are a part of those future stands. So what that essentially results in are certain harvest techniques and certain prescribed fire techniques, with, of course, prescribed fire being highly dependent on weather, as it was pointed out earlier. So those are a couple of techniques that we use. Another one important issue that we're dealing with, not only in Ohio, but lots of states, all the states in the Midwest, most of the states across the country, are invasive plants and invasive pests of a variety of kinds. And we do a lot of work to deal with those as well. We want to conserve those forest resources. Sometimes there's things you can do to help limit damage from invasive plants and pests. Other times you're a little more limited in what you can do. We've had a couple of things that we're currently working on actively. One is with the Hemlock Conservation Plan here in our department. Our division is the lead agency on that plan. Obviously, the hemlock is a very, very important component where it exists. It's a very important component in the Hocking area. So it's something we're paying very close attention to. We've engaged local groups, and we've taken the lead on using the latest techniques to control the hemlock woolly adelgid and prevent trees from dying in those areas. And we've had some success so far. And that's a very important conservation success for us, because that would dramatically change that area if we lost hemlocks in any number there. So we've been actively working on that very hard in our forest health staff, and they've pulled in state forest staff as well to work on those projects. And I'm really proud of the work that they're doing. Another arena that we're working in very hard are invasive plant control. So invasive plants are a problem everywhere, and we're doing our best to address those situations when they come to our attention. So we'd like to do more, and I think we have a plan to try to do more in the future. And excuse me, hopefully we'll get there because we could certainly ramp up those efforts towards invasive plants. But that's another very important thing that we do within our management planning. So, Greg, I'll kick it back to you, and whether you answer it or whether you want Jared to answer it is sort of up to you. But if you want to give some more detail about the oak hickory issue that we're dealing with, and what our management plans do to address that big issue.
Our forest action plan really looks at all the forest in the state and the issues that forests have, no matter what the ownership is. And we take part of that and adapt it to what is practical and what makes sense to do on state forest, which after all are a small percentage of the forest in the state. So out of that came our desired future condition, which a lot of that is points out that we need to manage oak hickory forest so that we have future oak hickory forest. Another part of that is to manage for diversity of forest adapted wildlife. And what some of our partners in Division of Wildlife have pointed out is that a lot of species, forest dependent species that have historically been common in Ohio have declined over the years. And part of that is just not having a large enough managed forest or large enough forest landscape. So a lot of the management we do helps those species out. And the other thing is making sure that we respect and manage unique biological and plant communities. So we do have a lot of unique areas on state forest. So we've tried to manage those carefully. A lot of them are designated as high conservation value forest, and we do very limited management there. But we may do things like hemlock woolly adelgid prevention activities and other things like that to try to keep those forests in the best condition they can be for future generations. Other thing I'll say we do is our forest action plan points out that most of the forests in the state are privately owned, and private landowners largely don't get the benefit of professional foresters. So we have a whole program within state service foresters that address that. But a part of that state forest can help with is we can really be the area that showcases the benefits of that long-term management. So a lot of our areas we've owned now for over 100 years, and some not quite that long, but you can start to see the long-term benefits of really what were degraded lands that the state bought and have turned into some of the more productive forest in the state. So that's another thing that we like to do. All right, we've got another question here. Dan, I'm going to turn this one to you as well, if you don't mind. Will we be increasing funds and manpower for trail maintenance? They note that our crews are doing the best they can, but seem to lack the necessary resource to do the job as good as it could be done.
So we have a budget proposal that has been prepared. I don't know the current status of that, but this is biennial budget planning season. And that was one of the things that we tried to address in that budget, was to try to obtain, additional workforce that could specifically deal with trails. We all know that we could spend more time on trails. Trails take a lot of maintenance, especially if they're heavily used. So we do the best that we can, and I think, honestly, from what I see when I'm out in the field, our staff is doing really a very good job with the resources they currently have, on making sure that trails are safe and making sure that they're not causing any environmental issues. So does that mean we couldn't do more? No, we could definitely do more, and we would like to do more. And that's our plan, but a lot of that will depend on the budget that we're given here in about a year. Sorry, about a half a year.
Thanks, Dan. So person notes that you all do a great job with the Buckeye Hero Hunt for disabled veterans, along with Lake Hope. So I wondered if you could just explain to those listening what the Buckeye Hero Hunt is.
Yep, thanks for the comment. So the Buckeye Hero Hunt is a hunt that we've been doing since 2015. We host disabled veterans at Zaleski State Forest, and Lake Hope has joined in the last couple years. We work along with the Buckeye Hero Hunt Committee, and what this is an archery whitetail deer hunt that we host. We put it on every year where we provide all the amenities that the hunters need in order to have a successful hunt. Personally, it's one of my favorite, it is my favorite event the entire year. Unfortunately, this year with COVID and the current conditions, it was canceled, but I'm greatly looking forward to an event next year. We provide just a wonderful experience to the vets to get out and experience camaraderie with each other and to have a successful deer hunt. So thank you for the comment.
So I wanted to remind everybody that we've got an open door policy here at the Division of Forestry, and please, this isn't the only chance you have to ask a question or comment. If you want to follow up with one of us, you can find most of our contacts online, and we'll happy to talk to anyone about state forest management. All right, so got a question here that sounds like maybe we didn't fully address. Question is, or pointing out that climbing is a big deal in Kentucky and West Virginia, just paraphrasing. And there's cliff and boulder resources that could be potentially used in Ohio more. So could we be part of that development opportunity? I guess I'll try to answer that a little bit, which is one, we'd be open to any opportunities out there that the climbing community wants to propose or bring to us as possibilities. A lot of the cliff resources in Ohio are unique plant communities as well, so those are things that we do have to consider. But if there's obvious areas that are part of state forest that we could open up to that activity, it's something that we could potentially consider, but it would be on a site-by-site basis. Looking at the clock, it is 6 o'clock, and we are not getting many more questions. So we're going to end the open house question and answer portion. And again, I want to thank everybody that took time out of your night to tune into the open house. And I definitely speak for all of us here at Division of Forestry that we really look forward to this event being in person again. And for anybody that wants to follow up with anything we talked about here tonight, please feel free to do so, and send us any written comments you have on the plan to the address that's in the Q&A box. So with that, say thank you very much, and see everybody next year.